So there was an assumption that after all of the World War II shenanigans with Undaunted, that they would continue that. Everyone thought we're going to the Pacific, but David Thompson said people have been asking for a non-historical based Undaunted, and the most requested, of course, was space.
So this is a new Undaunted set in a totally new environment, but I'll be telling you why this is still a great game for existing commanders.
And I'll be showing you why new recruits with no experience of the Undaunted series at all may well love this game too.
So I'm here with Benji from Osprey Games, and so you're going to tell us all the great reasons why people that have already played those Undaunted games want to get into Callisto as well.
With pleasure. So I literally work for Osprey Games because of Undaunted. This is the game that literally brought me to the company because I love playing Normandy so much. So I am one of those people who've been playing it for absolute years at this point, like nearly 5 years. Callisto, we specifically wanted to make sure that we've been improving the system, and every iteration of the game that's come out, we've made a point of updating the rules ever so slightly, bringing in some new features. The ones that work and people really gel with, we've been keeping those and bringing them in. Callisto brings, firstly, solo. We've got solo right out of the box. People wanted it for reinforcements, which we sort of backdated for Normandy and North Africa. That comes right out of the box here, and it has a new solo improved readability with the book. So we've actually laid it out so it has this flap so that the quick rules for solo are easily accessible while you're flicking through the book. Really cool. Yeah. It also has 4-player straight out the gate. So we also brought that in for reinforcements. People liked it. Spoilers, the game can always be 4-player because you can split your squads. Your A squad and your B squad can separate. There are some more nuanced rules for Callisto, but 4-player I think is actually one of my favorite ways to play it. Right. Specifically because having human beings talking at the table really changes the feel of the decisions that you're making. Yeah. It no longer is just you like forcing your troops into a bad decision. Suddenly you've got somebody else trying to negotiate with you to be like, well, actually, if I do this, then can you do this on your turn? And your goal is to try and sort of combo what your guys are doing with your partner to make sure that you're optimizing what your objectives are. Particularly further into the game, the 8 scenarios that we have in the box, they are much more varied than the previous Undaunted. Specifically, they have some missions that are like hostage rescue, destroying some buildings and stuff like that. And those can get a lot more granular, and you really need to team up and coordinate much, much more than previous games.
All your ducks in a row.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm a big fan of the 4-player. We also have, new for Callisto, we have elevation dice as well, which is one of the big features that's been exciting players at our demos this weekend. Specifically, we are no longer having just D10s, we now have D12s and D8s. So you have the advantage if you climb onto high ground, you can climb a hill and you can just gun down. And it feels incredibly good when you're on top of a hill rolling 4 D12s. Because you get a lot more hits in on D12s than you do on a D10, I'll tell you that. It's great, it's really good stuff.
And you're in space with the high ground.
Yeah, exactly. We're in space and in space.
So as you know, I'm a massive fan of the Undaunted games. I enjoy the Battle of Britain particularly, but I know people have been put off. They're like, I don't want to play World War II games, I don't want to play with Nazis. Why is this game so different that's going to attract new people to playing Undaunted?
So ever since we released Undaunted Normandy, we heard that people really love the system. System is a very elegant combination of a war game and a deck builder. It's also very flexible, and literally right from get-go, we had plans to potentially take it into a new genre, go somewhere else. Finally, we've been able to do that, and we've been able to loosen the restrictions on our historical background. So I'm really hoping that sci-fi is going to bring a lot of people in, and we've seen that already. A lot of people who maybe don't feel as comfortable with historical context. Also, this means that we can now have narrative like we've never had before because we can write our own stories. And I think that's really been inviting in new players who are excited by sci-fi stuff, particularly big mech warrior, power weapons, pulse guns, all that kind of stuff. And that's really exciting because we no longer have to have men in army fatigues with rifles, which we love, that's the backbone of what we do. But it doesn't exactly excite all players all the time.
And it's really amazing sci-fi art. You've kind of got that creative muscles you can just flex and explore in new ways.
Yeah, exactly. We have a whole new story that we can basically take wherever we want to take it. Roland McDonald, the artist, has really been going to town because finally he can have a whole new color palette and completely reinvent what Undaunted can look like.
Now, I find a lot of people get put off because I've got to set this all up before I even get a chance to play, and that's gone.
Yep. We always had a tile-based system for setting up the boards, which also meant that our boxes were really heavy and quite jangly. For Callisto, we have new map boards, these enormous map boards, and now what's weighing down our box. There is absolutely no RAL in these bad boys. We have these 4 map boards which are all double-sided, and all of the UI for the game with this kind of like sci-fi UI mode, it's all literally on the board. So it means that you lay the board out and everything you need is written on the board. Your objectives are there, your units are written there, and all the pieces that need to be set up, they are there, rather than having to necessarily check through a rulebook, scan it all, line up all your tiles. The other great thing for new players is that if you nudge the board, the whole board is going to move this time, whereas previously, as we heard from Normandy, suddenly you push one thing and it's this like chain reaction, knocking everything everywhere. So the system is really, really clean for getting new people to the table. The system is so flexible and we can take it in so many directions. We want to make sure as many people can play it as possible.
And what this campaign does, it gradually introduces stuff. So it's not overwhelming at the beginning.
Exactly.
But by the end of the eight different missions, you're going to have all those rules you've seen in the other games in this new setting.
So I can actually reveal we are going to have an additional promo scenario.
Oh, there we go.
Coming out shortly, we're going to have a print and play scenario which adds a 9th one to the game.
And I presume even more after that as you explore in this brand new universe.
We do, exactly. We're actually looking at expanding the Undaunted 2200 universe into a new product line for us. So we've actually just announced Line of Fire Burnt Moon, which is an Undaunted game. It uses the Undaunted system, but we're continuing the story. So the minor strike that we have in Undaunted Callisto actually continues on the moon of Io in Burnt Moon, and a group of black hat hackers are taking over and fighting the corporation. So this is like, it uses the system, but it sort of distills what's great about Undaunted and the card-based combat, and it turns it into a lane battler. And again, we're hoping that that can basically introduce it to new players. It's going to be a small box, perfect for putting in your bag. It's quick play, takes about 20-25 minutes to play. And again, we're trying to change it up so that more people can experience how great the system is.
So we're back from Essen, and actually Undaunted Callisto was one of the first games that we've managed to get played of all of our haul, partly because we're already familiar with that Undaunted system, so getting it played was actually quite easy for us to pick up the rules from that.
Yeah, you can certainly see the kind of DNA in other Undaunted games, and yeah, so for anyone who's experienced those, you really do hit the ground running. But it's worth noting that it's kind of like a finessing of the system, almost like a best of, a highlights package, where they're taking all the good bits of all the different games and melded them into one in this new setting. And I do really like the new setting. It's imaginative. It's, I think, just being freed from having to be the original games weren't historically accurate, but they tried to keep as accurate as they could do within the confines of still making a fun game. But having those kind of limitations taken off has just let it be the game that it perhaps the best use of that system.
Yeah, and I really do appreciate the boards in here, so you're not trying to find all the right tiles and things, and really looking forward to seeing what differences the different scenarios bring in. As Benji was saying, they've really sort of stretched things and added some new stuff in here, so excited to go further through more scenarios.
It's nice to see the standees. I mean, it's the first time we've seen standees in an Undaunted game. Kind of would like them to be minis, but that's just because the aesthetic I like. But it is, yeah, it's nice to kind of see those on the board. It's got kind of a more board presence, and as you were saying, it's just so much quicker to just get the board out, choose the various units you need, and then get playing. It's certainly quicker than it was in any previous Undaunted game. And so far, all the missions we've played, all the scenarios we've played, it seems really varied. It's not just a case of every single time trying to capture the flag, and it's interesting just playing the different factions, because they do behave very, very differently, which I wasn't really expecting. No,
you do feel sort of light and nimble versus strong and slow, and I'm sure as more different scenarios I've been doing different things, like going to sort out prisoners and things like that, you'll have these different missions that will feel different again, with the different types of troops and stuff you have in there, and drills and interesting fun things.
Yeah, so if you've ever been tempted with the Undaunted games and thought, I'm not sure on the art, I'm not sure on the theme, I don't want to be Nazis, this really is a great starting point. And ultimately, if you've played all the Undaunted games and want to experience those kind of mechanics a new way, like I was saying, the best of way, it's also great to playing too.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear from you. Have you played Undaunted before? Is this game potentially gonna have you dip your toes into this system? Do let us know in the comments.
Of course, if you're new to us and you've not seen us before, subscribing is always great because you'll get to be told when a new video is coming up. And we do post a video every single week right here on YouTube. And we are always talking about board games. If that's your sort of thing, you should probably hit that subscribe button.
And of course, if you're looking to buy Undaunted, Callisto or any other board games, then we do recommend that you go to your friendly local game store. And for us here in the southeast of England at Chaos Cards, there is, as usual, a code in the description that can give you a few pennies off at the checkout if you're buying online with them.
But as always, thank you so much for watching.
Bye!